Part 1. The man who folded a piece of paper. In the back corner of a worn and quiet village where the road turned into soft gravel and the morning mist hovered a little longer than usual, there sat a man. He wore the same gray linen robe every day. His shoes were always clean, though they had clearly traveled far. And under the same willow tree, one whose trunk had split gently with age, he folded paper. One sheet, every morning. No one knew where he came from. He simply appeared one spring, took a small rented room above the herbalist's shop, and began his daily ritual. At first, people thought he might be a foreign scholar or a failed teacher. Children said he was a magician. Older men called him harmless, and the younger ones called him strange. Every morning at dawn, he would sit cross-legged, inhale deeply, and unfold a clean square piece of rice paper from his coat. Slowly, deliberately, he made the first crease. Not too sharp, not too loose. And he would go on fold by fold until the shape began to reveal itself, a bird, a boat, a leaf, a box, or sometimes nothing recognizable at all. But he never made more than one a day, never spoke during the process, and never kept what he folded. He would gently release it into the breeze or float it down the stream nearby, watching it disappear without a word. People asked why. He gave no answer. Some mocked him, others stopped caring. After a while, he became like a tree in the town, familiar still and overlooked. But then came the merchant. This man was not born in the village. He came from the city, loud, busy, filled with noise and numbers. He had returned to care for his aging mother, but found the silence unbearable. On his morning walks, he noticed the old man. And one morning, curiosity overcame cynicism. "You fold paper," he said, standing with arms crossed. "Every day, one piece, and then you throw it away." The paperman looked up, but said nothing. "I've watched you for 2 weeks now," the merchant continued. "You gain nothing from it. No money, no attention, no product. You waste time." The man smiled gently. Only if time must be spent proving value. That irritated the merchant. "Everything must prove its value," he replied. A long pause. The paperman unfolded a fresh square. He let the merchant sit and watch as the process began. Each movement was slow, intentional. A crease here, a fold inward, a reverse fold. Not a word spoken. The silence began to feel thick-heavy, but not uncomfortable. Eventually he shaped a small crane, simple but balanced. It sat lightly in his hand. "What did you just do?" the merchant asked. "I shaped presence," the man said. "I trained the mind to move only with the hands. I lived one morning completely." "But what does that give you?" "Everything," the man whispered. "It gives me control over time." The merchant walked away unconvinced. But years later, during a brutal collapse in the city's markets, when he lost half his wealth in a week, he would recall that man. And he would fold a sheet of paper for the first time, just to remember what it felt like to not chase symmetry, not expect immediate return for effort. He later said in his journal, "Asymmetry lives in the smallest actions, invisible now exponential later." Part 2. The bamboo that did nothing for years. On the eastern slopes of the White Smoke Mountains, where clouds lay like old silk over the valleys, and time itself seemed to move more slowly, there lived a man named Wei. He was not known for brilliance, nor strength, nor charm. What he was known for, if he was known at all, was patience. He owned a narrow plot of land that many villagers called cursed. The soil was dry. Stones riddled the earth beneath. Crops that grew well elsewhere failed in his hands. Most neighbors gave up on that hillside long ago, but Wei did not. One spring he planted bamboo. At first no one noticed. He simply dug narrow holes with quiet hands, placed the seeds, covered them with loam, and watered them each morning as the sun broke over the ridge. The first week nothing. The first month still nothing. By the end of the first year the ground remained bare. People chuckled. Some whispered, "The old fool has lost his sense. Even weeds don't grow there." But each day before the village stirred, Wei Rose carried 2 buckets up the slope and watered his invisible garden. Then he sat beside it, not staring at the soil, but simply being near it, as if his presence mattered more than his expectations. The second year no shoots appeared. By the third year, villagers began using his name in jokes. To wait like Wei, they said, when someone lingered too long in line or hoped too long for love. A traveling official, pausing in the village for shelter, saw the man watering empty earth and asked, Why persist? Wei answered, because something is happening beneath. But nothing grows. Nothing shows, he corrected. By the fourth year, even his family grew restless. His brother urged him to plant rice instead. His cousin offered to sell the land for him. A monk advised him to move to a more fertile valley. Wei only smiled. Bamboo doesn't listen to doubt. It was in the sixth spring, just as the air shifted from frost to warmth, that the miracle happened. Within 10 days, the ground cracked. Thin green stalks rose like spears, inches, then feet. By the second week, they stood taller than any man. By the end of the month, they touched the eaves of nearby homes. Children screamed with joy. Elders came to see. Even the skeptical monk returned speechless. One villager asked, "How did it grow so fast?" Wei said it didn't. It grew long ago. You just couldn't see it. For 5 years, the bamboo had done the quiet work of rooting. Its system stretched deep, building strength not to rise, but to endure. Its explosion into sight was not sudden, it was inevitable, asymmetrical. Quiet effort, outsized result. Years later, when storms came and washed away newer farms built in haste, Wei's bamboo stood firm. When drought came, its roots drank deep. When other men panicked and left, Wei stayed surrounded not by wealth and coins, but by strength and stalks. He was no longer mocked, but by then he did not care. He had already learned the secret. True growth is slow, almost invisible, and those who confuse visibility with progress often abandon just before the breakthrough. This was the nature of the asymmetry he embodied, that 5 years of unseen labor can yield 5 weeks of unstoppable momentum. That value does not move linearly, it compounds underground. And most of all, that silence is not failure, it is foundation. Part 3, the trader who never raised his voice. In the heart of the city, where fortunes were made and lost in a breath and men measured their worth in noise, there was a trader no one noticed. His name was Shen. He sat at the edge of the exchange floor, never shouting, never waving, never rushing. While others barked numbers and bet aggressively, Shen simply watched. His posture was always straight, his hands were always calm, and his eyes quiet, sharp, unblinking, missed nothing. At first he was overlooked. He didn't dress like a winner. His shoes were worn, his coat plain. He carried no assistants, no briefcases, no drama. When he walked, it was as if time parted for him rather than chased him. While other traders told stories of bold wins and louder failures, Shen simply nodded, said little, and returned to his desk. But something strange happened over the years. When the market soared, others gained quickly and lost just as fast. Shen's portfolio, though modest, never suffered collapse. When crashes came, and they always came, others panicked. Shen had already exited quietly weeks before. When new trends emerged, Shen was never first in, but always early enough. His profits compounded slowly, almost invisibly. It wasn't luck. Shen practiced what most never understood: the power of asymmetric positioning. He believed in 2 things above all: that most noise is distraction, not information. That one correct decision placed early and held quietly can outweigh years of busy mistakes. While others sought action, Shen sought angles. One day, a young analyst, bright and proud, asked Shen directly, "How do you always get it right?" Shen paused, looked at the boy, then at the charts on the wall. "I don't," he said. "I get it wrong quietly, and right quietly. But I'm never loud." The analyst frowned. "That doesn't make sense." Shen gently placed a stone on the table. "This stone weighs a little," he said, "but if I place it here," he moved it to the corner, "the balance tips." The boy still didn't understand. "Most people place their energy everywhere," Shen said. "They move constantly. They react. They scatter. I only move when I find the corner that matters. One quiet stone in the right place tilts the whole board." It was asymmetry again. Not equal effort for equal result, but small effort at precise angles for great return. Shen's secret was not in knowing more, but in doing less better. He avoided the addiction of needing to be seen. He let others win the applause while he harvested the quiet rewards. At banquets, Shen rarely attended. At investor meetings, he spoke last, if at all. In group chats, he read but never typed. His life was not a race, it was a quiet negotiation with time. He once said to a friend over tea, "The loudest investor is the one most desperate to be believed. The one who wins already knows and does not need to be heard." Eventually, people began to notice his pattern, but by then it was too late to copy. Because Shen had something no formula could replicate: clarity without noise, conviction, without drama and timing, without urgency. He didn't just trade assets, he traded asymmetry. He understood that one calm, precise move done early, held with discipline, and released without fanfare, could return a decade of results. While others fought for symmetrical fairness, 1 hour of work, $1 of gain, Shen quietly played a different game: low cost, high impact. Quiet risk, loud return. He was the embodiment of the principle no one wants to hear. You don't need to win often, you only need to win right. You don't need to be followed, you only need to understand where the tide moves next. The boy, now older, still tells stories of Shen, not because of a single big win, but because of how quietly he arrived and how quietly he changed everything. Not by effort alone, not by luck, but by quiet asymmetry.